Hey there, I'm Lee Ullman here with some big news from the National Young Farmers Coalition. We're partnering with Heritage Radio Network on a special season of The Farm Report. It's all about what's happening with the Farm Bill and how it impacts farmers and eaters.
I am growing diversified vegetables on land that's been in our family for 150 years.
And so with the pandemic, gentrification, property values going up, we had to sell the land and we lost it.
Join us as we uncover the untold stories behind this massive piece of legislation that shapes how we grow our food, what we eat, and so much more.
The problems we have had, those are things that come from earlier Farm Bill and USDA policy, right? Like Earl Butz, get big or get out.
You know, it's my responsibility to know not only what I'm eating, but then like how that all came to be. And realize like, wow, like this piece of legislation, all this money, like it's technically something that I support as a taxpayer.
While Congress debates the next Farm Bill, this is not just an invitation to listen. It's a call to action. Be part of the conversation. Subscribe to the Farm Report on Heritage Radio Network, wherever you listen to podcasts.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network. Since 2009, HRN podcasts have been exploring the wide world of food, beverage, and agriculture. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. We've been making cheese in Wisconsin since before we were even a state, which may be one reason why we win so many awards for it. It's what happens when a whole state dreams in cheese. Find your next favorite cheese at wisconsincheese.com.
We talk about food, we talk about music, with musical dudes, finger on the pulse, snacky tunes.
Hello and welcome to Snacky Tunes. I'm your host, Darren Bresnitz. We sit down with the owners of one of my favorite new restaurants in Los Angeles, Amiga, Amore. We're chatting with Danielle Duran-Zecca and Alessandro Zecca, who opened up this Highland Park neighborhood-focused Mexitalin serving instant classic. We chat about their time cooking in New York, then moving back to LA, and the music and comfort that you can feel when you dine with them. Also, we recorded the day before they found out they were semifinalists for the James Beard Awards, so congratulations to them and everyone else in the food community who received a nod. And then, keeping up with our recent Philadelphia trend, we are heading back to the archives to hang out with Philadelphia's OddKidOut. At 20 years old, he co-created Fact magazines, and he was at the show to talk about and play his new single, Moonwalk. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy Snacky Tunes here on HRN. Danielle and Alessandro, welcome to Snacky Tunes. Thank you for making the time. Fan of the restaurant, excited to have you on the show.
Thank you for having us.
When I went in last year with my wife and a few friends, even though you were relatively new, it almost instantaneously felt like a neighborhood restaurant, which for a relatively new space is somewhat hard to capture. How were you able to dial in that feeling and that vibe right away?
I think it's always been part of, what we wanted Amiga Amore to feel like. Was we always said it needed to feel like you were at your like abuela's house or your nonna's house. Like it had to feel like, comfort. I think that was our number one thing when going into the restaurant and seeing, what it felt like and seeing the space that we wanted. And I think that's when we found like our home was, that location. It felt like a house. And we both kind of looked at each other and said, even though it needs everything, it has nothing in it. We both really felt like this is where we could achieve it.
It's a sign on top. Is it a watch shop, if I remember correctly, or what is
Jewelry. Anthony's Jewelry.
Jewelry.
So,
yes.
Yeah, and
yes.
That's it's the husband of our landlord, and so we just felt like it's such a landmark. The location, like we didn't want to make it feel like new. I mean, I grew up in Highland Park, so it was actually back in the day a restaurant called El Arco Aris. They were like a small family-owned restaurant, and so I kind of didn't want to. I wanted to leave things that felt like old school.
I have to say, it reminded me of what restaurants openings used to be like, where it did have that old touch to the neighborhood. It wasn't this mega PR machine. It felt part of just the local community in a way that I think I hadn't seen or felt for a while, to the point where I didn't even realize I was missing it.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays this became through social media and all of that a little bit difficult to don't be involved in those. Even if you don't want it, they, for example, even if you don't want to be on Yelp, they write you a review and you're on Yelp. So sometimes you have no choices to be on platform or social media. So I totally understand. I grew up in a restaurant where, in Italy especially, where there was none of these things, and still barely they're getting now, all the stuff. So people really come word of mouth. And that's how we built, to be honest with you, that's how we started building our business. Because during the pop-ups, I remember clearly at the beginning, it was like we were doing 10 people maybe, and mostly was family. Then they started doing 20. Then somebody talked to their friends, brought another friends, and all of a sudden, we started filling up
like
the spots.
Community.
We had a community, and those community became our guests when we opened the doors. Took us 4 years to be able to build a little bit of a community behind us, so to be some, a guest list. So
it's amazing. Now, before we get into the pop-ups and what you built in LA, you mentioned your abuela and your nonna. You both come from really strong culinary families. So who cooked in the house when you were growing up, and how early were you drawn into the kitchen or to the idea of working in food?
Well, I grew up, my mom always, in Italy, most of the people cook at home. So I literally grew up every morning waking up to the smell of something that she was cooking and go in the kitchen, be excited. And the kind of stuff that you should know that we are having lunch and we are all talking what's for dinner. So, we all talk about food. So I really grew up around that. And when I was in my teenage years, my family took over a restaurant. So that's where my career started. But I was never really into cooking the food myself because I found it always too complicated, too much stressful. I like to be on the outside. So that's why, we with Danielle work well, because she create the food and I'm going there and sell it out. That was the whole idea that we started with. But yeah, so my mom, and then for Danielle.
I definitely grew up with my grandmothers and the both of them cooking. My parents both worked when I was, young, so they would watch me, and it was really revolved around food. I feel like a family event, even in like a Mexican household, you start in the kitchen. Like something's happening in the kitchen, and so you're all congregating around there, and you're not even like going to the set dinner table. So I knew that I loved cooking. I didn't know I was going to be a chef. I actually thought I was going to go to school for fashion design because I also had a real love for sewing. And so, yeah, I think cooking just won it over a little bit more. But I, through my high school years, I wanted my grandmother's recipes. So, and she never wrote anything down. So every Sunday I spent with her, we would make a new recipe. So I have like a cherished recipe book that says like, one of grandma's pinches. So two of my pinches will be salt needed. So yeah, I think, and having that, and now like, I knew we always wanted a restaurant, but we had many ideas. So I think it wasn't until I kind of honed into my those recipes and my family that then it kind of all came together.
Now, you started cooking in LA, but you eventually wound up in New York, which, was an adventure before you eventually returned home. But what drew you to the kitchens of New York at that time? Why go across country instead of cooking around your hometown?
To be honest, my parents are going through a divorce right at that time. And I think it was a way for me to not be sucked into the drama, was I had to go somewhere.
Sure.
That was one part. And the second part was Walter Mansky is my mentor. So
shout out.
And Bicyclette. And so
yeah,
it was the time that he left Church and State. We were on the search for what would now be Republique. But it was just, everything was too up in the air, and I didn't really see like LA blossoming at that point. And I wanted really Michelin training. I wanted to work in tough kitchens that made me, better. So, and that is New York City.
Yeah.
So I told Walter that I wanted to either go to Le Bernardin or, Daniel Boulud. And he made a phone call. And I think within 2 weeks, I had a stage interview at Le Bernardin.
Wow. I mean, the power of that network back then is pretty incredible.
Still is. I still feel
It still is.
Yeah. It's still a community. Maybe not, as much.
Yeah.
But definitely I know that, I still have a good old school community like Walter. I mean, I can call him and I know he'll answer me.
Yeah. Now, Alessandra, similar question to you, because you were front of house in Italy and Europe and London, which is where so many people in America aspire to go to for training. Why the reverse and come to New York?
I felt London was a little bit too small for me, to be honest with you. I went there, I spoke no English, no nothing. I barely had money in my pocket. And within a month and a half, I was doing a chef de rang in a French restaurant.
Wow.
I don't know. I just conquered very quick. And then I was like, I wanted something bigger. And I came back to Italy to do a season in Sardinia. I used to do summer season in Sardinia. This Michelin restaurant was, more money, more experience. And he kept telling me about New York, you make good money, it's a great restaurant, blah, blah. So I took a plane and it just went out of curiosity and stayed there about 10 years at the end of the day. Then I met Danielle and, but.
That's it. That's it. Now, I want to talk about because you do have a very New York City romance meet cute story, but I'd love for you to share it.
Yeah, so I can go.
It's funny. We both looked at each other like, "Who's gonna start?"
Yeah, we met. I was in Croces and was crossing the street on Herald Square to go in a pub with my friend and one of Danielle's friends that she's supposed to go out with, and so made some funny faces. So we started talking. We went inside to the bar, and then an hour after Danielle arrived. long story short, we are sharing the right train, the train ride.
Okay, he's missing some parts. Yes, we met at a pub in Herald Square, but I was running extremely late because it was the holidays. So in New York, it was kind of like, blackout period. You're not allowed to miss a day. You're not allowed to go on like vacation. So my friend, I thought she was going to leave and ended up talking to them. So, by the time that I got there, I thought they were all friends. And so I was like, okay, great. You like brought friends with you. And she's like, no, I was about to leave. And I saw this guy on crutches. And so we started talking. And so, yeah, it ended up being good that she stayed. But we lived off of the same train, and that's where I felt so bad for him because he was on crutches. So I was like, okay, I'll help you get home. And then I asked somebody to get up so he could sit down.
And there it is. That's that. But not only that, beyond meeting, you started moving around restaurants together and working in similar spots. So...
Yeah, so that was, let's say, I think February, that was November or something like that, October.
It's like I would get the job and then I would bring a server along.
Past 2 months, 3 months, so I started talking to her, said, I was taking over a Italian restaurant and I had some of my mom's recipe. My mom was coming to do some dishes and I needed somebody to complement the menu, to finish the menu. So she taught me, she worked at Modern. I always had the feeling that she was good, right? My gut always been strong for me. So we chatting there on Facebook Messenger. So I get her to a date. I said, look, I need a chef. You want to come and help me cooking? So finally she said yes to a date. So we go out, 5-10 minutes, we kissed. Long time short, short story. After 5 months, we were married and she was the chef of the restaurant. So
wow. So... like, I don't want to say nepotism, but you knew somebody of how to keep getting jobs in different restaurants, right?
Well, it was like they would hire me as the chef and then I would I'd do a really good job. And then somehow, like the first 3, I want to say were Italian restaurants. So that was just easy. He was, he'd go in, he'd speak Italian to them. And then somehow he would just start working there. Which made it easy because that's how we began. I feel like our relationship began working together. So that's where we know how to do that, I think, better than being in the relationship at first.
I mean, you know how to work. You know what front of house is, back of house, those rhythms maybe as you figured out each other's.
And I think that exactly. And I think that's where we also began to like trust each other was I didn't even have to worry. Like I just knew he had it in the front. And, that's a huge part of the restaurant to make sure that the customer service is good, to make sure that you're selling the food, to make sure, that you're not just selling the one dish that everyone goes there for, but a little bit of something else. And to know that, everything is being taken care of.
Amazing. Well, listen, I want to take a quick musical break. And then when we come back, talk about the move from New York to LA, the pop-ups, and eventually opening up your brick and mortar. We have a song from the archives here on Snacky Tunes on HRN.
Bad man.
Welcome back to Snacky Tunes. I'm here with Danielle and Alessandro of Amiga, Amore. And so you're married, you're working in New York. Everyone knows that it is a grind in the New York restaurant scene at that time. So when does LA start calling to you like it called to so many of us around that era?
When we start coming here more often, and we start coming to see the family. And to be honest with you, I really saw the growth in restaurants. So before I used to come here, it was difficult for me to find good food. You know, in New York, there's a lot of Italian food, right? So here, less. And it was like, different sauces. If it was Italian food, it was, invented Italian food because it wasn't, awesome. I don't know. It was different for me. So I was like, oh. And then every year that I used to come, I see the difference. Oh, my God, this restaurant is much better. And then we went to Rusty Canyon. And Rusty Canyon was no. Oh my God, somebody actually doing stuff here. And I thought, Danielle, maybe this is not a bad idea for us to move along because we were looking for a space in New York for ourselves. But we didn't have any money. I barely had my paperwork done with my social security number, none of that. So now they're going to give me a loan. Now they're going to give us a loan, to adjust ourselves to open a restaurant because nobody knows us.
Plus, it was so expensive.
It was so expensive.
So expensive.
The place that we have right now in New York will be at least for $10,000. It's very difficult to do our restaurant. My restaurant that I had, she was the chef, was $18,000 to rent.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to sustain a business and thinking to have a future with it. You can do it for 2-3 years and then, close the door, but that's not fun. So, slowly saw the opportunity, and then we wanted to have a baby, we wanted to have a kid, so we're like, okay, what about New York? It's getting a little tight for us, I was tired to also live in this little apartment,
really
with no lights.
200 and what? No, 300 square
460
feet.
square feet.
Yeah.
But, so that was it. Like, we saw more restaurant opening here and more chef coming to LA. They would say, okay, maybe let's jump on the right train at the right time. And we go to LA and let's see what we can do. And the moment we got here, a lot of doors open for us, so it was definitely the right move.
I mean, there is something about coming home, getting new experience in a place like New York and bringing that back with you to look at the culinary landscape, which, as we all know, Danielle, since you left in that era, really exploded. So when you came back, did you see the opportunity that you felt wasn't there when you left?
Yes. I mean, really, even like you said, the more that we were coming, we were noticing better food, newer restaurants. Like, I mean, even think about it now, like the pizza scene was not what it was.
No.
Really, we did not have good pizza. I think like when I left, it was Domino's or Pizza Hut. It was not, or like, the mom and pop shops that were good, but not what it is today.
Yeah. I mean, now it's like a pizza town. Now it's like the idea of, get pizza anywhere, and you can get different styles of good pizza.
Yeah, but it's good pizza. It's good pizza everywhere. Like sometimes, is pizza in New York, pizza's better. I don't know. To be honest,
we won't go that far. We're gonna have like a bagel controversy.
I know. An Italian perspective, I like both. I like all pizzas, but just there is some good stuff happening around here.
There is. Now, I want to talk a little bit about cuisine and coming back. So, obviously, you could return. And you've cut your teeth in some of the best restaurants in New York, but it's sort of then doing not the same, but it's a predictable trajectory. When did you start thinking about a pop-up, and when did you start looking at your own personal stories and combining them?
I would say it happened pretty quickly that I knew that as much as I loved Union and Bruce and everything, it was too hard coming back and working at a restaurant from what I had just, come off of. Like Cuckoo was our last one. And it was not only a beautiful restaurant, but we were getting, a lot of recognition. We were getting a Michelin star. We were getting James Beard. We were like, to come off of a high like that and then kind of get a little disappointed. It was just like, I don't think if I work at a restaurant, it's got to be my own. So I knew quickly that I wanted to just do something on our own. So that's where we started like the hot sauce and the catering. And then once we were at catering, it was really great. Like, we were our own bosses. It was
private chef.
Yeah, gig. I did a private chef gig. but it wasn't my food. It was everything else that they wanted. So I think it was.
Well, she realized that I didn't enjoy much
Oh,
Mexican
yeah.
flavors.
There was like two parts. It was me not really enjoying what I was cooking that much, just because it wasn't me. It was like, I mean, it was great because it was a lot of different things, but and then being back in LA and being so excited to have like taco trucks or be so close to like, it's kind of like little Mexico here, whereas like,
Yeah.
and it wasn't like that in New York. So I never really pushed us going to eat Mexican food there. I would just have things like shipped to me. But I never really forced him. And so noticing that he was not enjoying what I was eating, or he would only order like one taco and then order a pizza after. And I'm like, what is happening here?
Right.
And, he just didn't like cilantro, and he didn't like corn. He wanted to tell my family he was allergic to things, so he didn't feel bad for not eating, because it's in our households it's very much the same. Like food is like love, like to give you another plate means like grandma really likes you, like, so
sure,
things that he didn't like. And so I think it was like a twofer. He kind of became my project, because I was like, okay, if I can get him to eat something, I know, like, not that he has a very good palate, but he just knows what he likes. Very
right.
picky. Yes.
Right. And I don't want to say stumbled, but you start to realize that there are these similarities between your Mexican heritage and the cooking you did and his Italian cooking background. And now I've had the cuisine, which you've affectionately dubbed Mex-Italian, and I can't believe it hasn't been thought of before, because there's so many similar process and approaches to cooking, and just even, similar dishes seen through different lenses. But how did you stumble, again, not the right word, but how did you refine the process to finding something that, like, these are dishes that absolutely work, make sense, and are not that dirty F word that people might call it?
I think, well, definitely like my extensive culinary background, it had to make sense. You know what I mean? Like it couldn't be gimmicky. And I think our travels really helped. Like I've been to Italy a handful of times, and we drive down to, even Baja. We go to TJ all the time, So I think him noticing what he would eat there, and just like I said, the travel to see like how cheese was made there and how cheese is done in Mexico, to have like requesón be so similar to ricotta, like the way that we both use tomatoes, the way like some of our sauces take forever, like we put a lot of love, a lot of thoughtful flavor, but it's also not overdone. Like, a taco just has cilantro and onion, like, and a salsa. It doesn't have to have, but like it's in the flavors of what you start with.
Yes.
So I think, and just being creative, really, like it also went back to my childhood. What did I love growing up with, and what was so simple? Like, I mean, I love our elote, but it's like the simplest thing that, is corn. Mexico is just corn. And so I find sometimes we laugh, like our simplest one was the one that like is everybody's favorite.
But I think you've also tapped into this era of where people have gone to the craziest ends of the food, what food could be, and everyone's sort of been walking it back to finding something that's more comforting and more approachable, but still novel. And I think that's what your cuisine really captures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what we always say, is a fine dining cuisine, but in a casual setting.
Yes.
You can definitely see the experience behind the food. So that's what it is for sometimes. And we understand that some people said, oh, this high price is more portion because, it's more, they're maybe used to go different places.
But we use the highest quality ingredients, and it's all in the prep work. I think people don't realize that how much it takes to have all those things, because I make everything from scratch. Like our tajin, our bread is made in house. Every dessert, the cannoli shells, like all the pastas are done by hand. So
Oh yeah.
that was also a little tricky to figure out at first, because I mean, I was on the pasta table just around the clock and I felt like I could not make enough.
Oh no.
We're out again. I'm like, oh my gosh.
But it's so interesting that people would balk at the prices, because if it was just straight homemade Italian restaurant pasta, people are used to paying that. But maybe because of the perception of like what Mexican food should cost in LA, that's where they start to have an issue.
Yes.
I mean, it could be. It could be.
I think so.
I see it. I just see the different kind of being in front of the house. I mean, to more or less. Sometimes I really catch. It's funny because the other night I caught somebody and they see it wasn't happy, with another couple, but they weren't just uncomfortable with themselves. You couldn't just tell, maybe there's a fight, whatever, and they were cold. So they went, they ate the food, but then they left us 3-star reviews saying, a few things. And I'm like, I told them, I know who they are, because I felt it, because everybody else was happy. Everybody finished the food. You know what I mean? Being up for the house, for me to discover those things. And then you realize that, you kind of see what kind of people come to eat. And then, you understand what kind of clientele you have, because that is very important to know when you need to, prepare event or stuff like that. Just you need to know what kind of people you have in the house.
No, house is a great word to use. And Danielle, knowing that you come from a love of fashion and design and sewing, that makes a lot of sense of how the design and the space feels, because there's a lot of texture, there's a lot of colors. Now, obviously, you were a mobile pop-up for so long. So what was it like to finally open up your own spot and to be able to make a home to invite people into?
Oh, it was. Sometimes I look at it and I'm like, wow, I feel proud of it. Because I feel like we both had two different visions, but I think that on some things he listened to me and saw like for sure the bar.
I still think you listened to me, though.
No, I did. But I wanted it to feel elegant, but not too cheesy Mexican. Like I wanted the benches to. I wanted it to also feel homemade. So a lot of it, like, we did do ourselves. Like, all of the chairs, we went to a thrift store and we would just be like on the hunt for them. And then he would spray paint it and I would fix them if they needed. And I sewed all of the cushions. So it was like, and I wanted that to be like where the Mexican fabric came in. But we went to Mexico so many times to get the tiles, to get certain glassware, so that it tied together. Like, things didn't have to necessarily all match, but they needed to have that same sense. And then like the plates, that's where I got, very, I think, like chef and Michelin, because those needed to be beautiful. So we definitely went shopping. A good friend of mine knows somebody in Mexico that made one of our plates, and it was just, they're gorgeous. I love them. It's like what the cavatelli served on. So we wanted to like give back to smaller craftsmen.
I love that.
I didn't want to get things that were just so commercial. So we thought, we wanted to be unique, and we thought about each little detail. Like even our wine list, we're trying to get more from Baja. We're just trying to do it, but do it right. Not, like I said, it's also our experiences being in New York and seeing really fine dining and doing just those little touches. Like, I mean, you said it was like a house, but I don't know which grandma's table side pouring aguachile broth, but that's where I like come in and I'm like, I need to elevate it so that you feel good in there.
But there is that emotional part of it where you walk in and it feels familiar, and then you get this incredible food and tableside service and these drinks. And I've talked to people, I myself had this like very emotional reaction to the food. What is it about the whole combination that really hits people in that core?
I mean, I think it's even us being so emotional and what it is that we built.
I see people all the time, mostly like girls, because our men sometimes we hide our emotion, but a lot of girls tell me that it reminds of grandma cooking, and they make a reminder of that dish or of that dish that grandma used to cook. So I believe also that the Danielle grandma's training come out on everything, because at the end of the day, that's what it is too, right? It's it's a product of love. It's a product. Nothing else we can do. Is more
Yeah,
love
I
you
think
put in it, more love comes
exactly.
out.
We love what we do. We love what we do there, especially, but it's cooking with love. It's cooking from the heart. It's things that, like I said, I grew up with. It's me thinking back to like chili colorado on rainy days, and what does that represent? That represents a hug, like like menudo on Sundays after church. Like what did that do? That's not just a dish, it's a memory. It's like what. And sometimes, yeah, like you said, some people do tell me that I brought them back to that, or that the chile relleno, they closed their eyes and it took them back to their grandma, and like, how did I do that? And it's like, because I grew up with the same sort of Mexican grandma that cooked just simple things but really put a lot of love into it.
I love it. Now, I want to make sure we have enough time to talk about the music and the soundtrack that also set the vibe, because it was a hit parade, just being in there of just songs that were so good that obviously there was a lot of thought put into it. So who made the playlist?
There's been a lot of it's been in the making for like, I feel like every pop-up, we would add another song, or we would go to like Italy, and like his sister would be driving us and playing like this new song, and we're like, oh, that's good.
Oh, that's awesome.
I sung a lot of the songs I grew up with.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, I grew up with, I know the words I sing around the restaurant. and then we added the Mexican part, so the Italian part, and then we added the Mexican part where it needed to be more Spanish song, because we really wanted to be on branding, and we wanted to add some Mexican. So then we started looking into what Danielle grew up with and what Mexican music was, and now we. Every time that we listen to a new one, we add it to the playlist, and so. But we got a few people that told us we have good music, so
good
that's
playlist.
Good.
Or can we share it with them?
Happy to hear it.
Yeah, well, I love it, and I cannot say congratulations enough. If people want to make a reservation or check out the food, or just see what you're up to, where can they see what you got going on?
So we accept reservations through Talk.
Nice.
You just type in Amiga Amore, and that's Wednesday to Saturday for dinner. And then Sunday brunches, we accept walk-ins. It's a different sort of service. So I think if you want to come try something and you don't want to make a reservation, Sunday is the day to just come in, get some chilaquiles with pasta, or we're doing an elote croissant. So everything is made in-house, like I said. So all the pastries are just really, really good.
We got pozole for the winter as well.
Oh, yeah. I got a rabbit pozole.
Ooh.
Yes.
Well, listen, thank you so much for making the time. I can't wait to come back in. And congratulations on everything. I'm excited to see how it develops.
Thank you. We can't wait to have you back.
Yes, we have another song from the archives and then a live performance here on Snacky Tunes on HRN.
It's okay.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. There's a reason when you think of Wisconsin, you think cheese. Cheese is a huge part of Wisconsin's history and future. In Wisconsin, the state of cheese, the tradition of cheese-making excellence began 180 years ago, before Wisconsin was recognized as a state. Immigrants traveled to settle in this lush green hills of Wisconsin, bringing their cheese-making traditions with them. These storied skills, combined with the freshest milk available, created a cheese-making culture that is uniquely Wisconsin. Wisconsin's 1,200 cheesemakers, many of whom are third and fourth generation, continue to pass on old world traditions while adopting modern innovations in cheese-making craftsmanship. Find your next favorite cheese at wisconsincheese.com.
Welcome back. We have OddKidOut live video.
Hey.
Can I call you OddKid or can I call you Butch?
You can call me Butch.
Okay, Butch. Welcome to Snacky Tunes.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming up from Philly.
For sure.
Darren and I are from Philly as well.
No
Born and
way.
raised. Yeah.
Why did you say that in the email?
Well, just for this moment. But I mean, when I say Philly, since you're from there, we're all from the main line. Are you from Philly proper? Or
Well, so technically I'm from the suburbs. So I'm like from Chestnut Hill area.
Okay.
Technically from Orland, but no one knows where that is.
No, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, so yeah, grew up in the burbs, and now that I go to Drexel, living in the city in West Philly, so...
how do you feel about living in Philly full time?
I love it. It really puts you, as an artist and a creative, it puts you in a completely different environment. Because not that the burbs are bad, it's just like being around, people my age and being around the city and just being influenced by everything happening there is like so much better for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think the second that we turned became teenagers, like the day we turned 13, we just started going to like the Troc and the church.
Yeah.
And just going downtown as often as we possibly could.
Yep.
I mean, and we can see Center City from our window, but there's a difference between, being in the suburbs and just being in it.
Exactly.
What are some of your favorite rooms to play in there?
So I've played the TLA, which is actually probably one of the best
That's
shows
amazing.
I've played. Yeah.
I feel like that's like a total feather in the cap.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Especially growing up there.
Oh, yeah. It's like you got to go to the TLA.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's been a great place. I've played great shows at the Troc. Even places like the Hard Rock is great.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think that was a venue when I was, or I don't ever remember going to shows.
Really?
It was mostly like the 4040, which is not around anymore, but like the Troc and just a bunch of like also house shows as well.
Right. Definitely.
What's the Drexel like house party show scene like?
It's great. I mean, for what I do, being a producer in hip hop, there's not a lot of outlets.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff for like rock music and punk music.
Right.
And I'll go to those every now and then just because I love all types of music. But no, it's great. There's a lot of people at Drexel that do music, obviously, and people want to find new music all the time. So
you have a pretty interesting background on things. So you did School of Rock. You did like drumming for rock legends. Like, tell us how you kind of got into all of this.
Yeah, so I'll give you the lowdown.
Yeah.
So when I was like probably, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6, my dad saw me like drumming in the back seat. Just like air drumming, and he was like, let's buy him a drum set. So when I was 6,
that's like the only parent that's ever said that.
I know, right? Noise complaints.
Yeah.
So he bought me a drum set when I was 6 and got enrolled in the School of Rock, which was like the best thing I could have done.
For people who don't know, what is it?
So it's basically like an after-school program that kids can go to, and once a week you do lessons and then you do shows. So the shows consist of covers of like, they have a classic rock show and you do that. They have like AC/DC, Pink Floyd, all that stuff. And so I did that from around age 8 to 14. But I stayed taking lessons there with a guy named Jim Love until I was probably 18. And they just taught me so much. So I was very, very grateful to go there.
What was one of the things do you think like going to School of Rock kind of like prepared you for that maybe just like being in bands and not getting like a more quote unquote formal education?
Yeah, well, it really taught me, first of all, how to format songs. Because when you're young and you have to learn how to memorize songs, it kind of like becomes engraved in you. The other great thing was that you get to be surrounded by kids your age that like music, because there's not a lot of musicians when you're younger that really want to take it seriously. So being in that environment was like priceless.
So how did you make the jump from, do you still play drums?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Sure. So how did you make the transition, the jump from drums to producing and doing like electronic music? So I had always been a drummer, and I was just yearning to do something more creative. Not that the drums aren't creative, but I wanted a little more creative control. And for my, I guess, when I was 14, my mom bought me this Native Instruments machine and Logic Pro. Dude, your parents are awesome. Dude, amazing. That's amazing. That's like two key moves that you've already said. That's great. They set me up for success. Yeah. Shout out Mom and Dad. But yeah, they got that for my birthday, and then I spent all of high school. Did you ask for it, or did they just like, hey, we read about this thing, like we think you would be into this? Well, my mom started noticing how much I liked hip hop and like making beats and stuff, and she actually saw it on, I think, like Apple's homepage. She just saw like Logic Pro go up, and she was like, hey, do you want this for your birthday? And I was like, yeah. Amazing. So awesome. That's like, so, I mean, okay, keep going. So yeah. So anyway, so I spent like all of high school just sitting in my room figuring it out. Like, I didn't take lessons for my MPC or anything like that. I just YouTube stuff, and I took what I knew from drumming and music and just put it to it. So can we hear something? Yeah, of course. I'll put something on right now. What are you gonna do for us first? I'm gonna play a beat called Through You. Okay. So you mentioned that you're at Drexel. How do you find the balance between being a musician and a student? Tough. Go on. Yeah, so, I mean, both are very time-consuming and require a lot of attention and work. So, sometimes I battle with choosing what comes first and what's more important. I mean, I love school, but... what are you studying? Music business. Oh, so, it's relatable. Yeah, it's definitely relatable. I mean, there's some times where you have to take classes that have nothing to do with what you want to do, which is always a pain. But no, I mean, I think I'm doing a good job kind of balancing it all. It just takes a lot of, planning and also just sacrificing a lot of things, as far as like not going out on the weekends and to catch up on work and stuff. So, I mean, if this goes well, you'll be out like far enough, like that'll like kind of even out in the end. Right. How's the reception been to your music, and where are you finding your place in the Philadelphia music scape? It's really been great. I just started producing as OddKidOut about 8 or 9 months ago, and in that time frame, I've gotten myself to around 65,000 followers on Instagram, and that's how I found you. I was like just like through Instagram.
Oh, really?
And your email was in there. I mean, that's how I found
you.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. It works.
Yeah. I mean, it's like an online business card. That's what I always say.
It's kind of amazing, like sometimes for bands, how hard it is to track them down.
Yeah.
But you made it real easy, which is why you're sitting here.
Yeah, of course, man. Thanks. But no, it's good because I took the connections that I had from drumming and just, being in the music scene and hit those people up and we're like, hey, I'm not just a drummer, I'm a producer too, and been booked on some shows and keeping it moving. So
and how have you found to the older Philadelphia music scene? Is it you within the Drexel scene, or are you in the larger Philadelphia scene as well?
I would probably say I'm doing more outside of Drexel. Not that I don't have support from Drexel. I just find myself being in front of just Philadelphians before students. But yeah, because I'm just always going out to the city trying to meet new people.
Have you toured yet?
As a producer, no.
Oh, okay.
As a drummer, yes.
Oh, okay. And I know that you mentioned that you'd worked with some Grammy people and some older people in the game. What's the story there?
So I'm very close with a guy named David Ivory who produced The Roots and Patti LaBelle, Erykah Badu. And I work with Cam Hoff, who wrote a few Neo songs. I work with Beyonce. There's just a lot of people. Oh, the Nicola brothers, who worked with Cypress Hill and Lauryn Hill and stuff. That came from drumming, and then using those relationships to push the production career has been helpful too.
So did you work with them as a drummer?
Yeah, as a drummer, and I would intern at their studios in high school, and just be if you need help, just call me.
Any valuable lessons you picked up from interning, or any advice you give to people who are weighing the pros and cons of? I'm all for interning, but current generation are maybe not as down with that. Any advice that you could give, or kind of here's why you should do it?
Yeah.
Or why you shouldn't do it?
You should do it because first of all, you're learning if you pick a good internship, you're learning the entire time. So that's already amazing. And two, you become close with that person because after you spend days after days in the studio with this same person, you build a rapport and you get called to do work after your internship is over. So, and especially if it's in another place away from where you're living, then you get a whole new environment too. So,
yeah, I mean, and also the distance between the suburbs and the city at 14 seems a huge. Even now, you're oh, it's not that far.
Yeah,
but at that time, it's it might as well be a world away.
Right. Exactly. I
mean, the one thing that's interesting about producing, and you kind of touched on, is that it is so collaborative. So how do you find the artists that kind of work with you in the project, or how do you weave them in to OddKidOut?
So I'm the type of person that just genuinely loves working with people. Now, if we want to talk about finding someone that's really, meshing with my sound, I kind of struggle with that.
What do you mean?
Well, there's just not, I don't know how to put it. There's just not a lot of... I haven't found many people that can really take my beats and do something with their voice over it that sounds the way I want it to. That being said, I've definitely come across a good amount of people that have, but the majority that I do, it doesn't feel like it necessarily meshes the greatest that it could.
Who are some of the people that fit well with your music?
Yeah, so... I'm contradicting myself, but a good amount of people. A girl named Ashley Leone, who's out in Nashville now. I used to be her drummer, and she's got the second song on the EP that I just put out. And she sounds great on everything. She's got a beautiful voice. A rapper named Odyssey, who I'm close with, who's a high school friend. He's on the EP as well. This guy named Luke Bryan from Philly. A guitarist named Todd who sings through his guitar. He's amazing.
Acoustic or electric?
He does both, but mostly electric. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, so he's awesome. The list definitely goes on. I'm missing a few, but...
And how does where's your approach in the process? I mean, people are so varied. Is it the beats are finished first and then you hand it over? Is it there's a framework? How does the collaboration? How does it come together?
It definitely varies with who I work with. So a lot of the times I have people just come to my studio and shop for beats. So I'll just play them beats and, you like it? Cool. Other times I'll have people over my friend Mitch Beer. He comes over and we start from scratch. And both have their pros and cons. So,
do you have one that you prefer over the other?
Well, I guess I like working from the ground up with the person, because then you feel like you're creating something together. Sometimes I feel like I'm just dishing beats to people, and like that's great, but I would much rather sit down with the person and really, tailor it to what they would want.
Great. Let's hear something else.
Yeah, sure. I'll play a song off the EP.
Okay, perfect. What's this called?
I'm going to play Amore. This is the single.
Great.
Bello mio, voglio solamente meraviglioso te. Da quando ero piccola avevo sogni di un fidanzato perfetto. Ti amo davvero, ti voglio bene. Salvami, baciami ancora. Amami ancora, carissimo, cuore mio, dammi tutto del tuo amore, amore.
I know it's been a short time, but it feels like forever. You're always on my mind, now more than ever. Can't remember life without you, the memories just aren't there. I think that my heart always knew that I needed you there. Pretty sure I know what to call it, could call it love, but I don't wanna move too fast, identifying us. Do the same rules apply when it's up to you and me? Oh, I'll take my chances now. Only one thing this could be. Maybe it's too early. Tell me if it's early. Don't wanna scare you. Don't want you to walk away, but I want you only. You're the best part of my day. I love you. I love you. I may be talking crazy, but please don't be afraid. I know you feel it too. I can tell in the way you behave. Pretty sure I know what to call it, could call it love. Oh, but I don't wanna move too fast, identifying us. Maybe it's too early, Tell me if it's early. Don't wanna scare you, no. Don't want you to walk away, but I want you only. You're the best part of my day. I love you. I love you. And only you. And only you.
If you did me dirty, better right your wrongs, Bonnet.
Yeah, here you go talking that shit.
I write them songs and make chicks spend nights and thongs, sorta kinda not quite for long.
Yo, you really drawn right now.
Love when I hear, love when I spit. Paint a picture, she in love with this shit perfect. She in love with the drip, so dog, I can't tell it's your chick. Nah, see, she in love with my clique. Get money, dress, fly, talk shit. I bet you played a part in this shit. Joe me like Melissa Joan Hart and shit.
Oh yeah, you Joe shit.
Need a chick to make a partner and shit. We can take a trip to the big car dealership.
Come on, then we
Think
out.
you know who you are dealing with. That no murder nigga killing shit. Nigga flow like water, BP, oil still spilling shit. Ball clothes, nigga still feeling it. One bottle left, nigga still chilling it. She still ride, nigga still willing it.
You know what? I should have listened to my girlfriend. I don't even know why.
Who are the vocalists on that?
So that's Gogo Morrow, who's a singer from Philly.
Good name.
Yeah, she's awesome. And then the rapper is Bonnet, who actually used to be, killing the game in Philly a couple years back. But yeah, he's the man.
So what was the process of making this EP? This is your first one, right?
Yeah, so I released something senior year as blah blah blah.
That's fine. No
one knows.
Unless you bring it up, no one's gonna know. So it's up to you how you want to tell that story. We'll just go back and say this is the first.
Yeah. So this is the first OddKidOut release. So I wanted it to be. The way I put it is like an autobiography of music, basically. So I wanted to tell my story through music, basically. It's very much a story. You have to listen to it from the beginning to the end, and the interludes within it, kind of tell it. But I kind of wanted to make something that made people think and something that was cathartic to people,
An EP is, really about editing and, not turning into LP. So how were you able to tell your story, or how did you kind of craft the story over like a shorter form?
So the EP was actually originally like 15 songs, and
of course,
so I had to cut it down.
All gold,
right?
All gold.
So I had to cut it down to 6, and that was probably the hardest part of the EP, was figuring out how to make up for all of that lost storytelling. So what I kind of left it up to was the emotions within the beats to kind of speak on that, and then there's tiny little snippets of things that you'll catch at the beginning and the end, and if you take the time to sit and think and piece it all together, it'll make sense.
Do you have like who are your like trusted ears? Like who do you send before it gets like the final lock?
So my roommate Scott,
is that default?
No,
like did you get paired freshman year?
Dude, so we've been friends since high school, and we went to Drexel together. And he, I'll call him into the studio and be like, "Hey, I need you to come listen to this," because I trust him very much. Another person was my manager, Kirkland Lynch. I would send it to him, let him hear it. And then the people I was talking about before, like David, Ivory, and all those people that really have a good ear and that I trust. And friends like, my friend Mitch Beer that I was talking about before, he helped out a lot too. So.
And is it like open for refinement? Like, do you take their notes in, or is it more like, or how do you take that in, like, even if you feel it's like done? Or where do you send it to them in the process?
I send it to them when I feel excited about it. And it takes me, I don't necessarily get hyped up about something when I make it. It kind of takes a little bit until I feel like it's at that point. And when I send it, I don't send it with the mind frame that it's done. I very much want someone to beat me up with their comments. Like I want as much feedback as possible, because I'm jaded, because it's my own ear. So...
Oh, so your skin's pretty thick, or like just something?
Oh yeah,
okay.
No, I want people to tell me what's up, because I'll make the changes.
Has someone like ever said something that kind of like slid right beneath the breastplate, kind of cut you a little bit?
Yeah, it doesn't bother me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all.
And what's cool about this is that you release it on BitTorrent too.
Yeah.
So how did that? That seems like such a modern kind of move. Mm-hmm. How did that come about?
Well, my manager and I thought it was a great move because they have so many listeners. And when we got approached about the situation, we kind of just wanted to jump on it. And also the great thing about it was that we got to do this premium edition type thing where people could enter their emails, and then they'll get like, the Amore video, and they'll get some pictures and stuff. So it was just a way to be more personal with the fans.
What happens to the other songs? I was going to ask for the other songs, the 9 songs that didn't make it onto the EP. Is that just like EP2, EP3? Do they just kind of live somewhere else?
I don't know. I mean, they may reemerge at some point. I mean, they're sitting in my iTunes library, but I want to do something with them for sure.
Plans for the summer? Tour?
Yes, I'm
actually out in the studio.
I'm actually headed to LA for the summer, and I'm interning.
Where are you interning?
Red Light Management.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
The more business of the music side.
Exactly.
They're great.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. And the great thing is that, I'm going to keep talking about my manager, he lives out there. So I'll be able to really, spend time with him and work on my craft on my days that I'm off. So
don't knock a good team.
No.
Like, you can go very, very far. Like, you should really like your manager.
Oh my gosh,
and your day to day and everything.
Yeah.
Do you know we're gonna live in LA?
No, that's the one thing I haven't figured out, and it's stressing me out.
You gonna get a car?
I don't know. Can't you only rent it when you're like 25?
Yeah, I guess that is a concern. I don't know. I've done Uber. I work out there, and I have been out there for 3 years. I have not rented a car in 3 years. Uber's like kind of really cheap.
I heard the bus is the move.
Yeah, I think like the rule is that as long as you're willing to pick up like all the Ubers, you can probably like get rides for half the things.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you just have to like you can't be the person without the car and be like, oh, I would have gotten that one. You have to be the first to offer.
Right.
And I think I don't know. It depends if you're gonna be in the studio most of the time anyway, or at work.
I'm going to try and get housing like right next to where I'm working, so I don't have to like, travel too far.
Yeah, I mean, it's the one thing that kills me. I mean, it's the most classic East Coast complaint, but the traffic really, it's like the most like stereotypical thing for me to say. It's like the traffic. Well, I know we want to leave a lot of time for you to do a freestyle at the end, just to kind of let you spread your legs and take us for a walk. But where can people find you? How can they add to that ever-growing Instagram account, book you, shop for beats, build songs from the ground up?
Yeah, so you can find me on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all under OddKidOut, and that's OddKidOut.
You are so well trained. It's amazing. It's incredible.
Thanks, man. Yeah. No, it's really easy. Just type in OddKidOut. I'll pop up. You'll see mine.
Cool. Well,
my face.
I want to thank our guests today. Shout out to the family. Shout out to Berlin. And any name for the freestyle? You're just going to let it go?
Yeah, this is just kind of like a little thing I put together.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for being on here, and take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much.
talk about food, we talk about music with musical dudes. Finger on the pulse, snacky tunes.
Snacky Tunes is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.